So I started in grade 12 actually. Going into my grade 12 year, I wanted to get a music degree. I play 7 different instruments and that was the dream. But in physics class, my teacher started talking about 3D printing, how it worked with the world around us, and he did his best to inspire, and he was very successful. So what I decided to do was combine the cheap and quick turnaround time of 3D printing with an already existing technology called myoelectricity. And what myoelectricity does is they use a muscle sensor. So when you flex that muscle, a voltage is actually picked up by the sensor. And it goes to a microcontroller. For example, this is an Arduino Uno. This is one of the types of microcontrollers I use. And so when the voltage gets to here, it tells the motor to move, which in turn triggers any sort of movement that you'd like. So in the prosthetic itself, there's 2 types of strings. There's elastic strings and there's inelastic strings. So the elastic strings they help the fingers bounce back like this. So they're not just flopping around like this guy. Now with the inelastic strings, they cause the fingers to bend when tension is applied, like that. So when it's all hooked up, the whole shebang, these wires are connected to a motor, which is connected to this, the Arduino, which is then connected to muscle sensors. I was talking with my grandma and she was telling me a story about how her sister, she is a below-the-knee amputee, how she was having trouble walking because her prosthetic was no longer fitting properly because it was just really old. And so her options were pretty much be stuck in a wheelchair, buy a new prosthetic, or if the cartilage damage became so extensive, they'd have to amputate above the knee. And so I was kind of thinking, well, let's change that. And that's why I found what I'm passionate about. That's why I'm in engineering today. They help give people their lives back because there's a humongous psychological aspect to losing a limb with the phantom pains, the looking in the mirror and it's just not there anymore. Or you wake up in the middle of the night and you move and you realize it's gone. It's the weirdest thing in the world to these poor people. And to give them something to even say, okay, with this, you can hold a cup again. It helps them give their independence back and it helps boost self-confidence as well. So in 2011, when I was still living in the States, I went for a routine audiogram. I had failed the school hearing test, so they sent me to do one with an audiologist, and they eventually ended up finding that I have a gene in my DNA that's causing me to go deaf. Now in this kind of environment, things are okay because there's not a lot of background noise, but when I'm at work or when I'm at a restaurant or at the grocery store, when there's a lot of background noise, I hear the high and the low frequencies and the mid just get lost. This spells strong in sign language, so that's the letter S, T, R, O, N, and G. This past month, I found out that my hearing has declined yet again, and now I'm about 50% deaf. Ideally, I want to continue to making this a reality. I want this to be available to any person in Canada, the US, even take it overseas. Maybe not the motor type, maybe not the electrical parts, but even just the basic prosthesis would be really, really beneficial, especially with all the bombings going on in Syria, that kind of thing. That's left a lot of amputees. And so there's definitely a need there that needs to be filled. Unfortunately, it's not a finished product yet. It's still work. Sometimes it gets really overwhelming and because people are asking, is it done? When is it going to be done? What steps are you on? What do you have left to do? Why isn't it done? Well, it's me. And so sometimes that can be a little stressful. And what I love about group work is that we can bounce ideas off each other because we all think in different ways. We all have different experiences and ideas and different ways of improving. And it's hard not having that. I've tried to include people in this project. They've told me that they were on board and they were ready to work, but they just crapped the bed on me essentially and just never showed up. So I've just kind of been keeping it to myself mainly, but I think it would be really, really beneficial if I found people who were as passionate as I am about these things and we could collaborate and create something great.